Are you interested in buying yourself some anime or manga merch? Some amazing hoodies, shirts with your favorite character on it? From JoJo's Bizarre Adventure to Kimetsu no Yaiba, Dragon Ball, My Hero Academia, One Piece, Tokyo Ghoul, Fairy Tail, Bleach, Heikaiho, and many others. Go click the link in my description box now and get some awesome discounts from 20% up to 68% off. They offer you free shipping as well. So, what are you waiting for? Link in the description.
There wasn't a significant reason why Katsuki chose to march and burst his way inside Deku's room. What there was, an egotistical, selfish drive for him to be reassured. Katsuki had not recalled when he had felt as much vulnerability. The voice inside his head was growing louder each step, but also more distant, feeling like he had been sucked into a trapped domain. It grew his anxiety and claustrophobia. He felt everything, but nothing at all, though that wasn't a very distinct explanation to his bottled-up emotions, things he could only come up with given the sudden jolt of horrification rushing through his body. Mustering up the courage to get a hold of a doorknob, he feels his feet growing heavy, an ick burbling inside his stomach, hands sweating, too clammy for his own liking. It was so irritating, hearing his own fears that he tried so hard to bury under his own non-existent grave because he isn't the person to resort to insecurities. But because of his own silly mistake getting hit by an unknown quirk, his head was trampling up with the worst possibilities that anyone could come up with, fight or flight instinct aching to activate. He can't break now, he can't falter before reaching the doorknob, or just simply turning away before leaving a soft knock to be greeted by a little bit of comfort. He needed it so badly, he craved for it too much right now. His body wasn't listening to the screaming inside his heart, it stayed too still, frozen. Something was taking over him, this newfound feeling of regret, insecurities, fear. It was being unlocked despite the futile attempts of keeping them caged in, seething to escape. When Katsuki decided to get back his consciousness, he was met with the stinging of an IV drip needle inside his hand. The antiseptics burned his nose slightly, but oddly enough, what the hell was he even doing here? Tracing back, there were tiny flashes of memory in his head, though too little to help him elaborate his current predicament. He doesn't have sufficient energy to stand back up or manage to make his legs work. He figures it was the fatigue making this happen. Katsuki feels his head spin into circles before hearing a roar of shrieks as he falls back into deep slumber. His eyes were half opened now, the need to shut them kept annoying him though. The beeps, he blames the beeps of God knows what. They kept ringing and ringing that it made his ears flame up with hindrance. Why was it giving so much feedback all of a sudden? This had never happened. Why was he still stuck in the bed with barely any energy left anyway? What time was it? Where's everyone? Why is he inside the hospital? How did he manage to fall back sleeping after hours of being bedridden? How long had he been sleeping? Bakugo. Bakugo. He snaps out of it. Aizawa was waving his hand in front of his glassy eyes, a slight concern from the dark orbs that were added with a tiresome expression. Aizawa-sensei seemed unhinged, which was unusual because the man had always been keeping his cool and never losing focus of the sight in front of him, but this, it was new. The teacher frowned in dismay, the sudden sight of his student's heartbeat monitor going off like crazy. It beeped so loud he didn't have time to call nurses in to help him assist the patient. Instead he sits up straight and offers his hand to hold down Bakugo's shaking ones, and swipes out the sweat running down freely on his forehead. Sensei? Now realizing the sudden contact, he pulls his hand away from his teacher's. Aizawa didn't mind and had expected it along the way. He sits back to his last position to have a clear view of his student's awakening. Katsuki had his eyes straight up to Aizawa, groggily asking him to explain everything that had happened. Problem child. Before you go on making the monitor go off again, calm down would you? Calm down? Don't give me that nonsense that you didn't panic just now. Panic? A vein popped up on his temple, clearly angered because of the sudden mock from his own teacher. Bakugo, everyone goes through this. It doesn't lessen your worth for losing yourself once in a while. What happened? How long was I knocked out? There must be a lot of questions in your head. I'll make this short. You were found passed out in front of Deku's room. Denki called me since he was the first one to find out about you. You've been here for a couple of days. Do you remember anything significant? Couple of days? Rest easy, Bakugo. Your body was infected with some type of quirk that slowed down the cognitive processes of your brain. It's even worse, it also kills off all the possible enzymes that are needed for your digestive system. Your stomach was damaged badly. The doctors were lucky enough to retrieve you before it worsened. Recovery girl rushed in to heal enough of your immune system to hold out a little bit longer. She's gonna come over soon to help you with the slight pain. Something was injected inside your body, they had to do a surgery to get most of the fluid out. It wasn't really mixed in with the rest of your body like how you would typically see poison do. There was this odd barrier that was messing with your whole mind and body. I'm asking again. Do you remember getting hit by a quirk? I don't. I see. That's all then, you don't need to be very paranoid over anything now. There are guards keeping watch in the hospital, and I'm gonna stay here with you till you get dismissed. Bakugo frowns, trying to recall each little detail on his way back to the dorm. The only thing he remembers, vivid, dark, distant, closed rooms that invaded him with his negative feelings. His heart trembled like a small child who couldn't do anything. He felt like he had lost every inch of strength he gained towards the years, letting the voices inside his head take over. He remembers, the aching circulating throughout his whole limbs. Unable to maneuver his muscles or to tell himself to snap out of it. The doorknob was clearly in front him. Each ticks of time he's using making the memories inside his head run through so effortlessly like a flowing river. What he didn't like was that it was all bad memories coursing through his already terrified self. He remembers the night he got sucked in the dark void of the portal, the sight of all the members of the league hurdled into one spot. The rough material of the seat belt hitting against his skin as he realizes they had tied him up to a weirdly equipped chair. Though screaming at them, shoving their faces with the undying courage he had, he knew, his heart had trembled. He remembers the corners of his lips shriveling up into a disgusting snigger. He tries hard not to look back to Deku's body that was on the floor. His lips trembling, fat drops of tears breaking away from his emerald orbs as he holds on into the last burning pieces of his notebook. Katsuki was lit up with trepidation because of Deku's awful sense of self-preservation. One person would obviously run away or try to. He didn't. Deku looked down trying to retrieve the burnt crisps of papers of his notebook. It's worth overthrowing the pain of blood that cut through his lips after the punch. Katsuki had beat him up. Katsuki had beat him into a pulp so hard his lip was cut and his eyes tinged with numbing pain. He remembers looking back into his stupid green orbs, expressing how he'd never get the chance to beat Katsuki even if he tried. It was almost time for them to graduate and sign up to a high school. The entrance exams for the UA exams were soon. He probably was brave enough to admit he was positive that Deku wouldn't be able to get close to him now. Sticking to him like a leech, after all the years they spent together. Katsuki being thoroughly obvious about his indignation and hatred for the guy. He was positive they would never run into each other's faces again, leaving off with his friends before dropping intoxicating words as a way to finally say goodbye and close a chapter of his life where Deku had always been in. Katsuki was positive, Deku never had a bright future for him. What he meant was the fact he'd never get the chance to be a hero. Or to ever see him as a possible rival, equal. Katsuki does it, and he drops the bomb. Just pray that you'll be born with a quirk in your next life. And take a swan dive off the roof of the building. He sees his eyes welling up in tears, just like the useless Deku could only ever do. That's what he always does. Cry about things like it helps do anything, cry about things when shit doesn't go his way, cry when someone disappoints him, cry when someone does him wrong. But never takes any action to help himself, save himself, or fight back to prove to anyone he wasn't such a useless person. That he was more than what Katsuki had named him. That he never managed to derive the meaning of the word Deku that defined someone who can't achieve anything and turn it into something that meant I can do everything. What? What are you gonna do about it? He smiles, Katsuki fucking smiles as he raises his hand into a fist and let the tiny explosion spark from his hand as a sign of threat to the skinny, useless boy. Kacchan. He's backing off now. Izuku knows the worst will happen if he decides to fight Kacchan and try to defend himself. Feeding him with his undying positivity that barely had any meaning to it. Katsuki found it absolutely fucking annoying. How people were able to feed off from the positivity and hope carved inside them without actually doing anything to achieve it. It was like waiting for someone dead to come back to fucking life. He knew nothing was ever happening. It should have stayed that way. You can't just say that, Kacchan. Telling someone to kill themselves like that. Deku was caressing his shoulders. What Katsuki had seen, he'd changed. He was looking at him with eyes that suffered through sleepless nights, hands that trembled, but they weren't scarred like the actual Deku. They were bony and thin, reaching out to him while stroking the chips of his shoulders gently. They had made his body shiver. Deku's body was towering over Katsuki's, patting his spiky hair after the blonde finally fell on his knees, exhausted from the energy he had used to fight over his own overwhelming feelings. What would you do if I actually had done it? What would you do if I actually died? What would you do if you were forced to come to my funeral to mourn over me? To mourn over someone you hate so much? Would you finally be happy? That Deku ended a chapter in your life you wanted to end so badly? So you can continue your story and strive to be the strongest hero in the world? Without me by your side? Will it make you happy, Kachan? Stop. Deku. Didn't you say it yourself, Kachan? That the easiest way out for me to be a hero is to take my own life and hope I'll be born with a quirk in my next life? I fucking did. Then why are you telling me to stop? I don't know. Do you still want it? No. Why not? No, Deku. This isn't you. Shut up, why are you being so fucking annoying all of a sudden? You want to cut me off your life, right? No, I don't. Have you ever regretted anything? Have you ever questioned how you were being praised for bullying others, how you were praised for putting people who had the littlest amount of hope in their dying hearts shred into bits? I don't know how you managed to survive through all of that pain. Being kidnapped, and being praised for holding up instead of getting actual help. You were seen so high and mighty for others you actually lost yourself along the way. You don't know when to break, when to admit to yourself what you did was so wrong. Because people see you as this awesome person, you're proving to them you are gonna be right. You don't need help. You're right. You're my perception of a hero and I adore you. You're so amazing, Kachan. You're so messed up but I love it. Kachan? 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 Are you okay? Izuku looked at Katsuki's heart rate monitor that had gone off again. The blonde was in another state of panic in his sleep, shutting his eyes tightly. Wrinkles had formed on his forehead and the side of his temples. Izuku held on his hand, stroking it gently as he waited for Katsuki to notice his presence. Deku. Hey? It's okay now, you're okay. What? Are you breathing well? Any pain you're feeling? What happened? You were clenching your jaw and shutting your eyes really tightly when you slept. Your heartbeat monitor also went off before. I'm assuming a nightmare? Did you have a nightmare, Kachan? No. Then are you okay? Did you panic again? Aizawa-sensei told me you woke up sweating really harshly. I just put the dots together, and I'm not. I didn't. Are you sure? Do you want me to call the nurse? No, idiot. I don't need you to call the nurse, or tell anyone about this. I'm fine. Okay. That's great. Tell me if you need anything, okay? I was so worried, oh my god. Kaminari-kun called about you and I started rushing to the hospital but they weren't letting me in. I had to wait in front of your room for a couple of days because your condition wasn't really stable yet. But I'm glad I get to visit you now, and actually talk to you. I was so worried, oh my god, I was so scared something would happen. Shut up, Dumbus. Katsuki brought the green-haired boy into a tight embrace. The view of his dark eye bags disturbed him slightly because he probably knew how the damn nerd wouldn't come back to the dorm and stay back at the hospital until someone told him to. Katsuki knew he wasn't getting enough sleep, a part of him feeling guilty since he knew he was the main cause of it. He pats the top of his green curls, strands of hair tickling against his cheeks. Katsuki nuzzles his head on the crook of his neck, subconsciously smelling mint and pine, Deku's signature scent Katsuki grown super fond of. Katsuki feels his heart squeeze when flashes of his nightmare run through his head again. No, he was okay. Deku was here. The Deku inside his head was not the real Deku. Deku is alive and he's okay. Hey? Is everything really okay? Katsuki feels the tears in his eyes growing but he manages to blink them away, the inevitable sniff though he was unable to get rid of. Izuku hears it as he holds the blonde tightly in his arms, shifting a little bit of his position to find a more comfortable one, still not letting go. Kachan? Are you crying? Damn Deku, I'm not crying. Why would I cry? Was it your nightmare, Kachan? It's okay, you don't have to worry about it. I said I didn't have a nightmare, Deku. How many times do I have to repeat myself? Okay, sure. Are you mocking me? What? No. He chuckled through the spiky strands of Katsuki's hair that met the tip of his nose. The blonde allows himself to finally relax, making Izuku pull away from the embrace and let himself meet his boyfriend's vermilion orbs. The brunette takes note of the fear and blank stare he observes, not the ones that were usually illuminated with bravery. He knew then, Kaken had been lying to him. Katsuki stares at the blanket above him, unable to keep up with the intense eye contact. He felt embarrassed, but bewildered as to why he was feeling so uncomfortable for no reason. Had his dreams really affected him this much? Do you wanna talk about it? It's fine if you don't, I mean. Whatever works with you. I'm okay with it. Katsuki blames it on the quirk that had hit him, or at least that's what Aizawa had informed him. They were working on the investigation of the case, so he had nothing to be so wary about. What quirk had he been hit by? Something that projected feelings the user wanted him to feel? Or was it? Ouch. All the thinking had made his head ache. Don't lie to me though, when you say you're fine. What? Deku, what would I even lie about? Nightmares, not feeling okay. How do you know that I'm lying anyway? Just feels like it. You're so weird. Katsuki scowls at him before pulling him into a hug again. Deku's warmth just felt really nice and comforting. He didn't need to think about so much, this was reassuring, right? Having him wrapped in his arms, being able to ruffle his hair, kissing his neck as mint and pine notes travels through his nose. This was enough. Are you sure you're really okay with being together with me? What? Izuku's eyes widened at the question, surprised why his boyfriend would ever ask such a thing. It wasn't really how he tends to act. Of course I am. Why wouldn't I be, Kachen? I'm just scared you'll step out of my life because... Because what? No. Izuku unlatches his arm from Katsuki's back, trying to break away from the hug again, but the other stops him by tightening the grip on his waist tighter. The green-haired boy decides to stay still. Tell me. Just had a dream about the messed up things I said to you back then. You came to me saying how it was wrong and asked me what I would do if you actually did what I told you to do. I couldn't answer, because I kept thinking about it. I realized how fucked up it was and I was scared and regretted it so much. No, cause what if you actually did leave and not come back? What if you were actually convinced at what I had told you? I hate being this asshole that, fuck. I can't do anything about the past and sometimes I just think that I never really deserved you from the start. I can't believe that I'm the same person who says the words I love you to you now, but back then, a person who convinced you to take your own life for a fucking quirk. I can't believe that I believed that being a hero revolves around having a quirk, but no. That wasn't a valid reason for me to ever do those fucked up things to you, and I can't get a grasp of myself to tell you that I deserve you, that you've forgiven me, when there was a chance that I was the cause for you to not be here in this world at all. I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Katsuki wasn't aware of the salty tears that were escaping from his eyes. He wasn't really thinking about his words. All that he was grateful for was having the chance to say sorry to him again. Katsuki didn't know if those words could atone for his past actions. It enraged him more because he knew they probably didn't. He knows that Deku could pick anyone over him. He was supposed to be his last option, as a lover, as a friend. Kachen. Kachen, no no no. Don't say that. Whatever it is that you dreamt about, it's not real. I've forgiven you for everything that happened in the past. It was a harsh time, but you managed to show me who you really are, so there's no need for you to question whether you deserve me or not. Hey, I love you. Okay? I love you a lot. I won't leave you, not ever. I'm right here in front of you and I'm not going anywhere. You're the one that I chose to be with and that's all that it is. There's no buts. I love you and I've forgiven you, a long time ago. And I know I would never ever stop loving you because really, I can't imagine myself like that. Katsuki finds himself laying his head on Izuku's lap, taking his hand as he grips on it tightly while the brunette softly strokes the blonde strands of his hair. He didn't really stop crying for a while, but he was finally reassured from his fears after what had felt like eternity, letting himself take a deep breath and indulge into the serenity of the moment. Izuku never let go of his hand, constantly telling him it was okay. Katsuki thought that their positions had been switched, but he really didn't care because this felt right. It's okay to be vulnerable sometimes. It's okay to depend on others when you don't know what to do anymore. I love you too, I guess. I guess? Damn nerd. He grits his teeth before turning into a blushing mess, struggling to show affection properly. I love you. There. Happy now? Yes, Kachan.